Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you and thank you all for joining. There's, again, quite some people here, so I think there is quite some interest in discovering the SuccessFactors extension apps. So let's see what we can do with today. For today's presentation, we will have myself as the digital tech expert of today. So if there are some technical questions and some technical parts, this is where I will come in. And I am joined with no one other than Bart van Hoven, who is the SuccessFactors competence lead and also there from the start for all the extensions. So he's the person to be here. So maybe some housekeeping. This will be recorded, this session, so keep that in mind. And we also have a Q&A feature enabled. So if you have questions, please ask them there, and then we can easily see what questions you have and answer them at the end of the session. It might be a presentation around 40 minutes, so after that we have some questions. Today we have, as we said, the SuccessFactors extension apps, which is now, and then at the 10th of September, maybe, if I can make some promotion, this might also be interesting because you are here for the extensions on SuccessFactors, but you can also have a look at the co-creation of SAP extensions in general then, so that might be interesting. But let's go ahead with the agenda of today. So we will have a bit of context, of course, and afterwards we dive into the Flexso portfolio itself with all the extensions we have today. Then we will have a quick look at the architecture, not in too much detail, but have a look at how it all works. And of course, also the implementation options, because there are multiple ways of doing this. And at the end, we have the approach in which we do this and our wrap-up. And of course, at the end, the Q&A. So let's start with the context. Bart.
Good morning. Everyone is probably familiar with, let's say, a typical technology adoption cycle. This graph represents basically my personal feeling of where the market is regarding the adoption of SuccessFactors, but not necessarily based on scientifically hard facts. Nonetheless, I think most of you are working in an organization that is using SuccessFactors. If not, call us, we need to talk. I believe there are two main reasons why organizations are looking to extend their SuccessFactors solution. Companies have moved from on-premise to SaaS, like SuccessFactors, to get a scalable, cost-effective HR solution. And in doing so, most of them stepped away from a highly customized solution and applied best practices approach. We are seeing that some of them have difficulties adjusting to the more limited capabilities of configuration. Instead of customizing for their business, they now need to configure to their business. But SaaS is a compelling offer as it's easier to maintain and to update. So you see that companies are looking to further optimize, to build on to the strong foundation they put in place, while maintaining the benefits of SaaS. And it's those companies that are now looking to have the best of both worlds. So cloud solutions that they can build themselves while keeping maintenance and cost low. Other companies moved to SaaS already years ago because they were on the forefront of the move to the cloud. And that's the group of innovators and early adopters. And they matured in the meantime. And now since a few years, they've started looking to innovate again and on top of SuccessFactors this time. They're looking to further differentiate again as well, because innovation is truly in their DNA. So when we apply the same adoption cycle to SuccessFactors extensions, where are we now? We see that the early adoption phase is gradually moving into the early majority. So time is really now for companies to start looking to extend their SuccessFactors solution. So what are they looking for when they want to build on to their SuccessFactors solution? Some of them look to extend, to build a process that doesn't exist yet. I mean, SAP is doing a great job in innovation, but even they can't do everything. So it could be that your company has a few key processes that differentiate you from your competitors, or you simply look to fill a gap that you feel isn't addressed successfully or sufficiently by SuccessFactors. Look at other use cases and we see that they could be more technology driven. Some companies want to either integrate other applications or processes in a smart, even better way. Even better, they could innovate using the wide variety of supported capabilities within the SAP landscape. So no matter how you look at it, each case is worthwhile to assess and to see if it would improve your experience of working with SuccessFactors. SAP delivers a best-of-breed solutions like SuccessFactors for HR, but each of the SAP Cloud solutions are extensible using SAP Cloud Platform. So at Flexso, we basically have the same technology, same capabilities, methodology at our disposal like SAP. So using SAP Cloud Platform, we already built successfully many interesting applications. So basically, every module within the SuccessFactors portfolio could be considered for extensions. So let's have a look at this portfolio. So here's what we've built so far, to give you some idea of the possibilities. This is, meant to inspire you, so don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have a good idea or a case yourself. At this moment, we have 5 successfully running extensions within our customer base. Some extensions are already sold to multiple customers. Some customers even have multiple extensions, and some of them also have extensions from other SAP partners. I'd like to briefly and quickly take you through some of them and to give you an insight in the original case, as well as a good understanding of what they could bring you today. Certainly not the intention today to provide an in-depth demo of each extension, but we're more than happy to do so at a time of your convenience. Before we move to the actual extensions, allow me to explain how, in general, we sell our existing extensions at this moment. We start from your SuccessFactors instance, and we leverage a configurable and adaptable template solution, which means that instead of starting from a blank canvas, we already have a solid base. We adapt the template solution to your specific needs, and as such, create your extension. It's a win-win for everyone, as you'll also learn from Nico later on in the webinar. Our first and most extensive extension at this moment is the Training Request Manager. The original version of the TRM was built as part of the migration project we did at OMV. They moved from Cornerstone to SuccessFactors LMS and also wanted to have a robust functionality to handle their large volume of external training requests. Now, the built-in solution was unsatisfactory as it's hardly configurable. So we built a highly configurable solution, which also ensured it's a one-stop shop, nicely integrated within the LMS. Users are able to make requests, have it approved through one of the workflows, and have it finally also available automatically in the LMS. This ensures a reduced processing effort for all stakeholders involved. In the meantime, other customers have also purchased this application, and we have at least a few more before the end of this year. I have a demo which I'll skip through some bits and pieces, just because of time's sake, but obviously the clip will also be available in the App Center later on. So the user starts from the homepage. They click on the tile to go into their training request dashboard, which allows you to easily see all of the requests that you have made or that you have running. You can easily create a new request by completing a configurable form. This form can be adjusted to your preferences. You can simply request a training for yourself, or you can add additional people should you desire to. When we skip a bit further, then we'll see that basically you as an employee, you can quite easily submit and complete such a training form, after which that it will be also submitted, for example, to a line manager, because a line manager may need to approve a request. This is really depending on the workflow. manager will receive an email from where they can easily click through and immediately access the application, where they can review the read-only version of the request and simply click approve or reject accordingly. Depending on your workflow, this may then end up with the training administrator who needs to pick up the phone and make a reservation for the training. But essentially, the training administrator can also add some specific information that is required for the LMS to properly be populated. So from there, the training administrator will publish this to the LMS. So once that is done, you'll see that the training request has been turned into an item, a class, and a specific enrollment for this user. Once the training has taken place, you'll see that the participant is invited to confirm their attendance, which means that the system will create a training record in the LMS so that this is also successfully captured on the learning history of this individual. Obviously, there's a lot more to explain and to tell about the training request manager than you've seen here, but feel free to invite us for a full demo. Next up is the Competency Matrix, which is another extension that can optionally integrate with the SuccessFactors LMS. Our customer Unile is a true example of an innovator. They're well known for the quick step laminated floor as well as the isolation products. So they decided that they needed to have a consolidated view on their scattered landscape of qualifications, certifications, whatever competencies. So together, we created one unified way of working for all the types of qualifications, which we built onto the SuccessFactors foundation they already had. And we leveraged their LMS, Employee Central, and Job Profile Builder information, which means that we combine data from multiple sources in one view. Now, the true intention is to manage the life cycle of the operator's competencies. So one of the cornerstones in this initiative was the fact that it also needed to be intuitive for these competence managers and the users that use the matrix only on an occasional basis. We've now evolved the solution further, and in the meantime, additional organizations have purchased the matrix and are mostly deploying this for their blue collars, but we're also looking to leverage this for sales target groups, for example. The matrix shows a list of competencies versus people that you have access to. As a line manager, I have access to competencies of my direct and indirect reports. But I could also be an HR manager and click on my group to see the competencies of everyone in my population. I can set a number of filters to adapt my view, which I can then save to retrieve afterwards with a single click. The matrix can provide a set of competencies on site or unit level, associate competencies to categorization like machines, etc., and provide the use of reference or target roles to identify gaps. And in this way, I can check what the required level of competencies is versus the current level. And I can do this for my current role, or I can also do this for a future role. If I toggle this button here at the right and top, the matrix will indicate a match or a gap of the current competence level versus the target, as it has been defined by the employee role. Green means match or above, yellow means one step, red means more than one step below the targets. To make it more clear, I could filter then only on the gaps to be closed, and then to easily see priorities to focus on training efforts. Per cell, I can identify the competence level per employee per competency. The history shows the life cycle of this competency. From here, I can then also access the training record app to manage training for this employee. Because here I can then identify training and, for example, simply add a training and mark it as requested, which then could be a trigger for a training manager to take action. And once delivered, that training manager can then mark the training as completed or as failed. Matrix also integrates with the LMS to extract, for example, the status of curricula, which typically represents certifications in the LMS. So as a supervisor, I have a consolidated view of the different certifications within my team or my group. Next is our contingent worker registration, which is our EC extension at this moment. As part of the Employee Central project at IMEC, there was the need determined for a solution to capture information from contingent workers, but directly in Employee Central, because they represent almost half of IMEC's population. Now, although onboarding is on their roadmap, they wanted to have a simple but strong solution in place already. And at this moment, contingent workers are not even supported in onboarding, so this solution may have been a good choice. We built a single end-to-end process for the request and the registration of contingent workers, again, with a straightforward and familiar graphical user interface. With this extension, we also captured the right information from the different stakeholders, as I will also briefly show you in the next slide. The first step is really to say, okay, people can be get the permission in SuccessFactors to initiate a request for a contingent worker. IMEC decided that each of these requests needed to be confirmed, for example, by somebody in HR or could be somebody in finance. So we leverage Employee Central workflow to notify the approver of this request. They would then check and confirm the request, after which that the contingent worker is notified through an email, and they're invited to complete the necessary information and access, for example, a non-disclosure agreement that they need to sign and provide. Once the information has been completed by the contingent worker, the approver again is notified and will confirm, will check the information and confirm to have the contingent worker automatically created in Employee Central. Next up on stage is our CV matching extension. Together with the startup company TechWolf, we created the CV matching solution for one of our customers. Make sure to look at our website or listen to the podcast we have available for more information. Using artificial intelligence, the solution looks for a match between the competencies of a candidate on one hand and the competencies in a job requisition on the other hand, although neither of them are described as such, but are derived by the TechWolf skill engine from available data like CV, resume, letter, a job requisition, etc. This technology-based matching process reduces unconscious bias and significantly reduces your time to hire. You can also activate your recruitment reserve in a much faster way. And obviously, this extension is also seamlessly integrated with within SuccessFactors. Let's have a look at a short demo. There we go. So you basically can launch through the SuccessFactors homepage. From the dashboard, you will find that all of the open job requisitions are available to you as a recruiter because you have access to these. You have the possibility to sort and to filter the list as the filter work on all of the visible columns. Or you can simply use a keyword to find the vacancy that you're looking for. When you found the vacancy that you were looking for, and when you open this, you will get more information and an overview of the candidates that have applied with their matching rate. The candidates are listed in 3 groups: screening, which means still to be screened; shortlisting are the ones that are already in the selection process; and finally, the rejected candidates. You can easily reject a candidate through an action button, which is then automatically put in the rejected phase in SuccessFactors. In case you have a good match with a candidate, you can click to show the candidate profile, after which you get an overview of the matching skills, but also possible missing skills as were derived or found in the job description. Other relevant information is shown, as well as top 5 of other vacancies that could be a good match. You can also download and view the CV. If you want to shortlist the candidates, simply click, again, the action button. This shortlist can then be associated to a particular step of the recruitment process in SuccessFactors. The third action button shows all the leads for this specific vacancy, which means that the list shows top 50 candidates who have applied in the last 3 months, but who had not yet been hired. Competencies associated to the job requisition can also be consulted in the competencies tab. And this view could trigger you to improve your vacancy test to find a more suitable match. So you can quickly go through a quick link to SuccessFactors. After rewriting the text, the solution will also allow you to recalculate the matching rate of the candidates that have applied. So basically, in a nutshell, this solution matches your candidates with your vacancies, but using artificial intelligence powered by the TechWolf skill engine. So next is a brief look at our final extension, again, an LMS add-on. As part of the LMS project at BitPad, next to the TRM for ad hoc training, there was also a specific need for them, because they support their yearly training plan approach in a quite specific way. Training needs are analyzed, budgeted, and planned for the entire next year, but they also involve supervisors and department heads in doing so. So again, moving from an Excel-based approach and to avoid a lot of manual work and handling, this solution was put in place. Through this proactive planning approach, BitPad can now ensure better budget control and resource allocation. They also engage their management even more for capturing training needs. The solution also makes the facilitation of planning discussions much easier, because thanks to the integration with the LMS, this extension also minimizes the effort for the training department. In addition, the extension also allows to monitor the progress of the execution of the plan and follow up on the planned activities. But that was the last one. We're pushing hard to get all of the necessary steps to publish our extensions on the SAP App Center. So we'll keep you posted once published, but don't hesitate to reach out to us for an in-depth demo. I'd like to hand over to Nico at this stage. Nico.
Yes, thank you. So our next point in the agenda is the architecture. So let's have a look there. And before I go into the architecture, the base principle there is Bi-modal IT, where we have SuccessFactors, which is the core in your business process for HR and has a lot to support your business processes. But we see, of course, and Bart also mentioned this, that the customers are ready and to innovate and differentiate as well. So they have the core, but now they have their own things that they want to do with it. So here the cloud platform comes into play. And what can it do for us? So the cloud platform has a few components, base components, in which that help us both in development as well as employee experience. Because, for instance, the single sign-on can be used to create the extensions. So we have the SuccessFactors environment where you are logged into, and you click on the tile and you go into the extension without having to log in. So this is great. You also have the Wi-Fi applications and Fiori Launchpad, of course, core components in the extensions, and the CPI, the Cloud Platform Integration for real-time integration. These are core components, but you also have some, well, a lot of services available like RPA, conversational AI, and others like Internet of Things, machine learning, but those are just a few that help in in creating real smart applications and really leverage the power of the technology to have great applications and great employee experience, like for instance the machine learning in the CV matching application. So now that we know what Cloud Platform does for us, let's have a look at the architecture. And if we have a very high level overview, we see that the SuccessFactors instance and the Cloud Platform are two components that we need, just the two. But if we go into a bit of detail, we see that in SuccessFactors, you have a few modules, and based on the extension that you do, you might need them or might not need them. So for instance, employee profile is one we always use. Why? Because employee profile is, once you have SuccessFactors, is always there. In comparison to Employee Central, you don't always have that. So since we want to make some parts as general as possible, for reuse purposes, for instance, or just to have good extension methodology, we use employee profile as the centerpiece for employee information. And then the other modules like learning, recruiting, depends on the extension that you make. The MDF framework might be used, but it's not always necessary. This is just to store custom information within SuccessFactors. Then the extensions themselves, they are hosted within the Cloud Platform. So there, everything is in place to run the extensions, and then they can seamlessly integrate. For the login experience, I also have the customer IDP here. Basically, you are in the SuccessFactors environment, and you just have no additional login. So you just reuse the same login experience as you already have. So again, we have the simple point of view, our SuccessFactors instance and our Cloud Platform, but actually as an end user, you only see the SuccessFactors instance, and then you have your Launchpad with the extension tiles in there, and then you just click it and you just continue with your work. So very easy, right? That is the architecture. But how do we implement those extensions then? So we have 3 different types that we identified, and we try to make a metaphor with something that everyone knows. And I think that building a house is very known, a very common principle. So let's have a look. So we have the EPAS solution. Which is basically think about a new building project for an apartment. So you have a very global architecture for everyone, and within the scope of your apartment, you have some customization options. So this is basically a bit of the same. You have fixed features, and you have some customization options. So a bit like SuccessFactors as well, which limits a bit the flexibility. But it offers fast delivery and low cost because of it. And then, it's not available for all extensions. Why? Because we look at extension per extension, what is interesting to have globally available to multiple customers. Because if everything within an application is custom made, then there is no point in having it EPAS. And this is then hosted on the Flexso Cloud Platform. Why? Because this is the architecture of the EPAS solution. So you don't even need your own cloud platform when you choose EPAS. Then we have the rapid deployment solution. This is more the prefabricated house, where we start from the foundations of an existing extension. And we can also reuse building blocks from extensions, just to have a faster startup time and to also lower the costs. So this is also very interesting and has a lot more flexibility for you as a customer, but also not 100% as you would, for instance, in the project, which we'll see in a second. Because we are working with the building blocks and with the foundation of an existing extension, you are limited to what was thought of at that point and time of the extension. So that is there, but it's a lot more flexibility, of course. This is available for all existing extensions, and I say existing because we have no building blocks if it's not there yet. And of course, it can also be it can be hosted both on your own cloud platform as well as the Flexso cloud platform. So that's a choice you can make. Then we have the third one, the project, which is basically you go to an architect and you say, I want to build my dream house. That's basically the same principle, in which you have 100% flexibility because you are making your own house, your own project, which is a slower startup time and a higher cost, but very interesting if you have a lot of custom ideas. But very important, you have a design phase in which we need to gather all key user information, because that's very critical if you want to have a good extension. And once you have all the information, you can start with the implementation and have a great extension. And also here, it's available for all extensions, of course. And again, it can be hosted both on your own cloud platform as well as the Flexso cloud platform. So again, here are the three options. We have the EPAS solution, we have the rapid deployment solution, and we have the project. So these are possibilities. Now, how do we know in which do we start with? Then let's have a look at the Flexso approach. So the starting point is your requirements. So you as a customer have requirements and you want to see, okay, I want to do this within my SuccessFactors and I want to differentiate in this way. We listen to you and have a look at, okay, what are the requirements? And then we match them with our package solutions that we have, our extensions portfolio, and see what can we reuse, how can we start from this, or do we have a full custom implementation? So we have our fit gap analysis based on that information. And if we have our fit gap analysis, we can sit together and see, okay, this is the approach that would be suitable for your project here. That is how we choose. And then we have here just a very visual presentation of both scenarios where you have the Flexso extension portfolio start. So you start from an existing extension and you have the custom one, so your own custom implementation. And basically what we see is that you have the design thinking and the mock-up. So the design phase, that is very critical, where we see the difference. So this is a part that you could skip when you have the extensions that we already have available, because then you are working on a proven concept versus having to think it all out again from scratch. And one thing that is also taken into account here is the co-creation, because we at Flexso also believe in extensions and want to help with the community to also build extensions here. We see a very interesting, we see interest for both parties here. So we can build together the foundations of the future, basically. But more in detail, the session on the 10th of September, where we go in detail on co-creation and creating your own extensions together with us. So as a wrap-up, let's see what were the highlights of what we saw today. So we built on top of SuccessFactors, which already has a great core for us, but we built on top of it. And we can do that with a reduced time to that added value. Why? Because we already have extensions available, but also because we have a platform that allows us to. So we have a lot of technologies, as we saw, that help us create better applications, create integrated applications on top of the very strong core of SAP. And then we have also the different deployment models in which you can choose whether it's on your own cloud platform or on the Flexso cloud platform. We can just build extensions that you really need. So I think those are the core messages of today. And I think that, finally I can say that if you have ideas, please let us know, because we would really like to talk to you and see if we can build more extensions or leverage the extensions that we have, of course, because that's the whole point. Okay, thanks a lot, everyone. So we will now have some Q&A, but if you have other questions or we cannot answer the questions right now, maybe if you can click once more, you can also contact us at info@flexso.com, where we will be happy to help you. Thank you. So maybe some questions. So the first one, how do we reach out in case of specific use cases to build on top of SuccessFactors? Is this something that you will pick up, Bert?
Sure, I can do so. So basically, there's, I mean, typically you have to pick up the phone and call us, and as Nico mentioned, I think typically we look at your requirements and then assess to see, okay, what are your specific needs, and is there something that we can already leverage from our existing extensions, or maybe parts of those, to really see if it's something that we could that we could easily build for you, because I think the project approach is a good one to really start from scratch. But obviously, when you can already build onto a foundation, that will obviously save time and money for you as well. So if I see another one. So what would be typical duration from the idea to implementation? Well, it depends, I would say, because obviously you need to take into account the throughput time. So roughly, I would say 2 to 3 months when you are looking at an existing extension, because as I mentioned, typically. Although it could be out of the box, we typically look at really adapting this. So when, for example, an LMS extension, it needs to be adapted to your LMS. So 2 to 3 months is a good time. When you have to start from scratch, I would say rather 4 to 6 months, end to end, including the hypercare and really hand over to support. Is there a separate license cost to pay per app? It's a good question. At this moment, it is. Basically, we sell you the extension, and part of the fee is let's say a setup fee, and that's basically what you need to pay. It could be that you at the forefront already have specific requirements that are not matched with the current set of extensions, which would then add on to, let's say, some specific customization costs. But essentially, at this moment, there's one license per app, and so it's maybe a good idea to start thinking about bundling a few apps, buy all of the LMS apps and get one for free or something. It's an interesting thought that I'm may consider. Indeed. So what SAP Cloud Platform services do you typically need to support your SuccessFactors apps? I think that's one for you, Nico.
Yes. Okay, so for Cloud Platform, what do we typically need? So, of course, we have the Cloud Foundry now, which would need the application runtime service, and then as well the portal service, and authentication integration, maybe. The identification service, then that is also necessary if you don't have an IDP yet. Those are the base ones, but of course, if you have specific requirements, IoT, machine learning, things like that, of course, there are additional services, but those are the core ones. So I don't know if there are any other questions that you have for us. Okay, so is mobile access supported? Mobile access is supported, as in our Fiori. Well, when we use UI5, we use Fiori, and the same principles are there. So it is, Fiori is responsible. Sorry, didn't find it. It is responsible, so you could use it on different screen sizes. So you can also use it on the mobile phone. Of course, the real mobile scenarios, you would need some additional services there. I don't know if that answers the question, and if there are any others. If not, then I think we can start rounding up. Okay, I don't really see any other questions coming. So okay, if you have questions, please send them via mail. And then, okay, there's one more. That's a great question. I don't know if you know this.
I can answer that one.
Okay.
So at this moment, the SuccessFactors app on your phone is not, let's say, open for integration with extensions. So it may be a call to SAP to say that this is something that should be envisaged. So as Nico said, at this moment you can leverage the extensions on your mobile device using the responsive design, but we cannot open up the SuccessFactors app on a smartphone. So this is something that is a limitation that is in place at this moment from SAP. Okay. So I'd like to thank everybody for attending the webinar. The webinar is recorded, so feel free to share it with colleagues. Should you have any questions that come to mind at some point later, feel free to reach out to us, and we're looking forward to seeing you again in one of our upcoming webinars. Until then, bye-bye.